Hello, welcome. God damn it. Where's side content? Properties. There we go. There we go. Hello, welcome. How's everyone doing today? Hopefully everyone's doing well. I'm a Blitzies. There we go, make sure all chats are visible.
Here's a good girl.
I am. Right now. How's everyone been? Welcome. We're continuing on with our art practice here. Right now, I want to make a few changes here. Outside that, all should be well. Hold on, neck crack real quick. Oh, that was a good neck crack. Here. There we go.
This is how dying from every deadly infectious disease feels like. Rabies. Imagine you're walking home one evening when a stray raccoon suddenly spawned in front of you. It's moving strangely slow and stumbling, and its mouth is drooling. Before you can step back, it jumps and bites your left forearm. You pull away, wash the wound at the sink with soap and water. Within a week, the wound is barely visible. A month passes, then another. You forget about it entirely. Then one morning, you feel a tingling in your left arm, right where the bite was. You assume it's nothing serious, but a few days later, you got a fever. And then a
Oh
restless,
no.
uncomfortable feeling you can't shake out no matter how much you rest. What you don't know is that the rabies virus has been crawling up your nerves this whole time, around 12 to 100 millimeters a day, totally invisible, with zero symptoms. And by the time you feel that tingle, the virus has already reached your brain. Once it's there, things get bad fast. The virus attacks the part of your brain that controls your emotions, your behavior, and your basic body functions, like swallowing and breathing. Your family rushes you to the hospital, and a nurse brings you a glass of water and holds it to your mouth. The second the water touches your lips, your throat locks up in a violent spasm. This is called hydrophobia, which literally just means fear of water. But it's not actually fear. It's just your brain misfiring that made your reflex go haywire. And it's not just the water that does it. Even a small breeze blowing across your face can trigger the same full body seizure. On top of that, because of those spasms, you can't even swallow your own spit. It just constantly pulls in your mouth. The virus actually takes over your salivary glands on purpose. Rabies spreads through saliva, so flooding your mouth is how it makes sure the next victim gets infected if you bite them. Your body is just a delivery system for the next infection. After that, slowly, your muscles stop working altogether. The paralysis starts at your legs, then climbs up to your arms, then reaches your chest. Eventually, you lose control of your entire body, fall into a coma, and die within 2 to 10 days after the first symptoms showed up. But there is a way to stop rabies, but it only works if you act before symptoms start. If you get bitten by an animal and go to a doctor the same day you get bitten, it can give you a series of vaccine shots over the next few days. Those shots stop the virus before it ever gets to your brain. That window between the bite and the first symptom is the only time medicine can save you. Once symptoms appear, there's nothing doctors can do. Ebola. You're an aid worker in West Africa. You've been there for 3 weeks, helping at a rural clinic. This morning, you woke up with a headache. You take some painkillers, drink water, and assume it's the heat. But by afternoon, your whole body feels heavy. Even lifting your arms feels like too much effort. So the doctors run some tests, give you some medicine, and you rest. But none of it helps. Because what you actually have is Ebola. And it's been quietly multiplying inside your body for 5 days already. Here's what it has been doing to you this whole time. Your blood vessels are basically long tubes that carry blood to every part of your body. And the inner walls of those tubes are lined with a thin layer of cells that keep everything sealed. Ebola hunts those lining cells down and destroys them. And as those cells die, small holes open up in the vessel walls. Because of that, blood starts leaking out and your blood pressure begins to fall. At the same time, your immune system is trying to fight back. It sends out its defender cells to attack the virus. But Ebola does something that most viruses cannot do. It can possess the defender cells and take control of them. Those possessed cells then start flooding the body with emergency signals. Think of these signals like messages telling nearby blood vessels to relax and open up wider. Normally, this helps immune cells move around faster to fight an infection. But with Ebola, the signal never stops and happens everywhere at once. So the blood vessels keep opening more and more until they get so loose they can barely hold blood inside. For the first few days, you can still convince yourself this is just a bad fever. But around day 4 or day 5, something changed. You start throwing up, at first just once or twice, but then it doesn't stop. Then comes the diarrhea. And together, they start draining your body of around 3 to 5 liters of fluid every single day. In the worst cases, up to 10 liters. You're losing water faster than anyone can put it back in. And that's only the stuff you can see coming out of you, because inside, there's something worse. With the vessel walls
Mm-hmm.
now destroyed throughout your body, your blood starts forcing its way out wherever it can find a gap, from your gums, your eyes, through needle puncture sites, and bleeding heavily from deep inside the gut. With that much fluid and blood gone, your blood pressure drops even more. Your kidneys need steady pressure to clean waste from your blood, so they start to fail. And after the kidneys, liver follows them. Because Ebola also directly infects and kills your liver cells. Without the liver, your body can't make the proteins it needs to clot blood properly. So the bleeding just gets worse. Eventually, the combination of organs shutting down, fluids drained, and blood loss getting worse, your heart can't maintain enough pressure to keep going. Somewhere between 6 and 16 days after that first headache, your body finally gives out. But even the people who survive don't fully escape them. As one survivor put it ain't over even when it's over. Doctors call it post-Ebola syndrome. About 75% of survivors still deal with joint pain, headaches, muscle aches, blurred vision, and crushing fatigue. And studies show that even 5 years later, more than half of them still have these symptoms. The virus may be gone, but the damage stays. Bubonic plague. Imagine you're living in Florence, Italy in the spring of 1348. For months, people have been gossiping about a sickness coming in from the east. But Florence is one of the richest cities in the world, and nobody's going to stop their life over a rumor. So the markets stay open, and the streets stay crowded. And one day you wake up with a fever and a strange lump under your armpit. By evening, that lump has swollen to the size of an egg. It's burning hot, and the pain is so bad you can barely move your arm. You have no idea that a flea bite you never even felt started all of this. And the flea brought tiny bacteria that outmaneuvered your entire immune system. The bacteria behind bubonic plague is called Yersinia pestis. See, when something harmful enters your body, your immune system immediately sends out destroyer cells to destroy the threat. But Yersinia pestis has a way around that. When one of those destroyer cells swallows the bacteria, instead of dying, the bacteria pulls out a set of tools to counter it. One tool injects a paralyzing chemical into the cell that switches it off before it can warn the rest of the body. Another tool wraps the bacteria in a kind of invisibility cloak, so other immune cells don't recognize it as a threat. So instead of being killed, the bacteria survive, multiply inside the very cell that was supposed to destroy them, and
Yeah.
quietly spread deeper into the body without triggering any alarm. They eventually reach the nearest lymph node. It's basically a security checkpoint in your body that catches and destroys anything dangerous. But because the bacteria has already disabled so many of the immune system's warning signals on the way there, the lymph node doesn't realize how serious the situation is until the bacteria are already multiplying inside it at full speed. The node swells up as it tries to desperately contain an infection that's already out of control. And the swelling is the bubo, that hot, egg-sized, agonizing lump under your arm. Your fever keeps climbing, the pain keeps growing, and your body has been losing this fight for days without you knowing. If nothing stops the bacteria here, they eventually break out of the lymph node and pour into the bloodstream, and that is where things become deadly. Once in the blood, the bacteria release poisons that cause the body to essentially panic and attack itself. Blood starts clotting in tiny vessels all throughout the body, while those same vessels are also leaking and bleeding at the same time. which cuts off the blood supply to many organs. The fingers go dark, the toes go dark, the nose goes dark. The tissue is dying because no blood is reaching it anymore, and it turns black right there on the living body. This is where the name Black Death comes from. The organs, overwhelmed and starved of proper blood flow, begin to shut down one by one, and death in untreated cases comes within 3 to 6 days of that first fever. Without antibiotics, bubonic plague kills between 30 and 60% of the people it infects. If caught early with the right medication, most people survive. But without treatment, the time between the first fever and death hasn't changed in 600 years. Cholera. You're living in a crowded neighborhood in London in 1854. It's a hot summer morning. You drink a glass of water from the public pump down the street like you do every day, and you feel completely fine. But by afternoon, you feel a strange discomfort in your stomach. You make it to the toilet just in time, but an hour later, you're back again, then again, then again after that. And by now, what is coming out of you doesn't look normal at all. It's watery and whitish, almost like the water left over from rinsing rice, and it absolutely doesn't stop. Turns out the suspects are a bacteria called Vibrio cholerae, and what makes it so uniquely scary is that it doesn't damage your body at all. There's no bleeding, no torn tissue, or anything like our previous entries. Instead, it releases a poison that gets inside the cells of your intestine and hijacks the switch that controls how much water moves through your gut. Those cells normally move water and salt in and out of your intestine in a careful, controlled way. But once that poison takes over, those cells start pumping water and salt out of your body nonstop, and they physically can't turn off. Your body just keeps draining and draining and draining. You could lose up to 1 liter of fluid every single hour, and up to 20 liters in a single day.
I mean,
Put that in
liter.
perspective, your entire body only holds about 5 liters of blood. So you are losing 4 times your whole blood supply worth of fluid every day. And you're not just losing water. You're losing the minerals your muscles need to move and your heart needs to keep beating. And as those minerals disappear, you can feel it happening. Your legs start having cramps so painful they feel like the muscle is tearing. Then your stomach cramps so hard you curl over. And your mouth goes completely dry, and no matter how much you drink, you can't keep up with what you're losing. As the hours pass, the fluid loss starts changing how you look. Your eyes sink back into your head, your cheeks hollow out, and your skin loses its color and turns into a grayish hue, which is how cholera earned its old nickname, the Blue Death. And the longer it goes on, the worse you look. Your hands shrivel and wrinkle like you've been soaking in water for hours, even though you're dying of thirst. Your heart starts beating faster and faster, but your blood pressure keeps dropping because there isn't enough fluid in your veins. Once the pressure drops too low, the kidneys can't clean out your blood anymore, so they shut down. Then the rest of your organs start failing, one after another, until your heart finally gives out with nothing left to pump. In the worst untreated cases, someone can wake up completely healthy in the morning and be dead by the following night. But here's the wild part. Cholera is actually one of the easiest deadly diseases in the world to treat. All you need is clean water mixed with a little bit of salt and sugar, given fast enough to replace what the body is losing. That's it. A solution that costs less than $1 can pull someone back from the edge of death in hours. With that treatment, the death rate drops from over 50% to less than 1. But that only works if you have access to it. And for millions of people living in war zones, refugee camps, and places where clean water doesn't exist, $1's worth of salt and sugar might as well be on the moon. Typhoid fever. Imagine you're a soldier sitting in a military camp during the American Civil War. One evening, you notice a slight fever. You take it easy, drink some water, and figure it'll pass. But the next morning, fever is a little higher. The morning after that, higher still. And the thing is, this fever never goes back down. It just keeps climbing, a little more each day. And that pattern is so specific that doctors in that era could look at a fever chart and know exactly what they were dealing with. That disease is called typhoid. Typhoid is caused by a bacteria called Salmonella typhi that only infects humans. It spreads through contaminated food or water, and once you swallow it, it survives the stomach acid that kills most other bacteria and slips into your small intestine. Now here's where it gets sneaky. When the bacteria enters your body, your immune system sends in its fighter cells to swallow them up. Normally that works perfectly, but Salmonella typhi has a trick. Instead of dying inside the fighter cell, the bacteria wraps itself in a tiny protective bubble, stays calm, and starts multiplying. Then it does something even more clever. It hitches a ride on that same fighter cell as it travels deeper into the body. all the way to the liver, the spleen, and the bone marrow. In other words, the bacteria is using your own immune system as a free taxi. And for the first 1 to 3 weeks, while all of this is happening deep inside your organs, you have no idea anything is wrong. But eventually, the bacteria multiply so much that the cells they're hiding in can't hold them anymore. The cells burst open, and all that bacteria floods into your bloodstream at once. That's when your body finally figures out how bad the situation is. And the fever that hits you, that's your immune system freaking out, pulling every alarm at once, trying to fight something that's already everywhere. By the second week, your stomach starts hurting badly and you can't eat. The lining of your intestines, which has been under attack this whole time, start developing open sores on the inside. And those sores begin leaking a foul-smelling greenish liquid that comes out as diarrhea. By the third week, the fever has been cooking your brain for nearly 20 straight days. And your mind starts to go. You become confused and stop making sense when you talk. You lie in bed completely still, staring at the ceiling, sometimes grabbing at things in the air that aren't there. The people around you are trying to talk to you, but you're barely aware they exist. And this is the point where typhoid most often kills. Either because one of those sores in your gut has finally eaten all the way through the intestinal wall, and everything inside your gut is now leaking out, or because your body has simply been fighting at full force for 3 straight weeks and has nothing left to give. Today, typhoid still infects around 9 million people every year and kills over 100,000 of them, almost all in South Asia and sub-Saharan Africa. There are antibiotics that can treat it, and they've been around since 1948, but the bacteria has been learning. Since 2016, strains in Pakistan has been resisting nearly every antibiotic we throw at it, and it has already spread to India, Bangladesh, the Philippines, and beyond. There is a vaccine, but it's still not available in many of the places that need it most. AIDS. You're 23 years old, living in San Francisco in 1983. One morning, you notice a dry cough that won't go away. You figure it's the weather. Over the next few months, life stays mostly normal. You go to work, you see your friends, you lose a little weight, but nothing alarming. But the cough never leaves. You get tired climbing stairs you used to take 2 at a time. And what you don't know is that a virus called HIV has been quietly destroying your immune system this entire time. Here's how it works. Your immune system runs on special cells called CD4 cells.
Yeah.
Think of them as the generals of your body's army. They spot threats, call in backup, and run the entire defense. HIV works by finding those generals, breaks inside them, rewrites their DNA, and turns them into virus factories. They make those every new cell that grows from them carries the virus too, like this guy. For 8 to 10 years, the virus slowly wipes out your generals one by one, until no one is left to protect you. Your body is open to attack for every germ, fungi, and parasites you can find. Then, one morning, you wake up and breathing starts to feel like trying to inhale through a wet sponge. Your lungs fill up with a fungal infection that a healthy body would have wiped out in hours. After that, your eyes start acting weird. You see small floating spots, and things look a bit blurry. It feels like the kind of problem you might blame on lack of sleep, but then your vision starts getting dark from the sides. Around the same time, the headaches begin, then the seizures. Then come the moments where you cannot remember where you are, or even what year it is, because another infection has reached the brain. You also stop being able to absorb food properly. No matter how much you eat, the weight keeps dropping. Your muscles slowly gone. Fever becomes constant instead of coming and going. Basically, every disease starts hitting at once because your protective barrier is broken down, and there's nothing left to hold these infections back. For over 40 years, HIV and AIDS killed 44.1 million people around the world. In 1996,
Which is scary.
doctors figured out a combination of drugs that could keep the virus under control. Deaths in the United States dropped by nearly half in just 1 year. But even those drugs don't kill the virus. They just hold them back. And as of today, there is still no cure. Hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. Imagine you've had the flu for about 4 days. Fever, muscles, aches, the whole thing. You figure it'll pass. Then one morning you wake up and something feels different. Your chest is tight. You take a deep breath, but it doesn't feel like enough. You try again harder this time, but it still feels like the air isn't reaching where it needs to go. Within a few hours, you're coughing, gasping, and no matter how hard you breathe, your body is starving for oxygen. This is hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, and it starts with something as small as a mouse. The deer mouse, specifically. If you happen to sweep out a shed, clean a cabin, or disturb an area where infected mice have left behind poop, urine, or saliva, the tiny particles can float into the air. and then you breathe them in without even noticing. The virus lands deep in your lungs, infects the
Shit.
cells there, and then spreads through your bloodstream to the walls of your lungs' tiniest blood vessels. For the first 3 to 5 days, it feels like nothing more than a bad flu. You get a high fever, painful aching in your thighs, hips, back, and shoulders, and your whole body feels heavy. Most people go to the doctor during this phase, get told it's probably nothing serious, and go home to rest. And the reason it gets so bad so fast is because of what the virus has been doing to your blood vessels this whole time. Most viruses that attack blood vessels do it by ripping them apart. This one doesn't. Think of the walls of your blood vessels like a brick wall held together by mortar. What this virus does is dissolve the mortar. The bricks are still there, but now there are gaps between every single one of them. So now the liquid part of your blood starts leaking through those gaps and pouring into your lungs. In the worst cases, up to 8 liters of fluid can flood in and around the lungs, piling up at a rate of up to 1 liter per hour. And it's not just your lungs that are giving out. The virus goes after your heart too. When doctors examined the hearts of patients who didn't survive, they found the virus had gotten inside the heart muscle itself and started damaging it from within. So while your lungs are flooding and you can barely breathe, your heart is also getting weaker and weaker, losing its ability to pump blood. And once both your lungs and your heart start failing at the same time, it can go fast. In the most severe cases, patients die within 1 to 2 days after the lung flooding begins. As of 2026, there's no vaccine for hantavirus. There's no drug that can treat it. If you catch it, all doctors can do is put you on a ventilator, try to keep your blood pressure from collapsing, and hope your body is strong enough to fight it off on its own. Polio bulbar-form. Imagine
Holy
you're a
shit.
6-year-old kid in Dallas, Texas, in the summer of 1952. You've been playing outside all day, running through sprinklers and chasing your friends. By the evening, your throat is sore. You have a mild fever and your legs are aching. Your mom puts you to bed early. For 2 days, it feels like a summer cold. Then, on the third morning, you try to swallow your orange juice and it won't go down. The muscles in your throat just don't respond. You try to call for your mom, but your voice comes out weak and squeezed. By the afternoon, you can feel your own chest slowing down, and each breath takes more effort than the last. This is bulbar polio. The virus entered through your mouth days ago, multiplied in your throat and gut, slipped into your bloodstream, and crossed into your brainstem, the part of your brain that controls automatic movement like swallowing, speaking, muscles in your face, and breathing. One by one, the virus destroys the nerve cells that run these functions, and they don't grow back. What makes this form of polio terrifying is how it acts. It wipes out the nerves that let you move, but it doesn't touch the nerves that let you feel. So you can feel the spit rising in the back of your throat and understand that you're choking on it. You can feel your chest getting heavier and know that your lungs are failing. Doctors at the time described patients as drowning in their own saliva and mucus while being fully conscious and aware the entire time. Imagine being 6 years old and you fully realize you can't scream, you can't move, and you are slowly losing the ability to breathe. Back in the 1950s, there was
Mm-hmm.
no cure. The best doctors could do was perform a surgery on your throat called a tracheotomy and places you inside a metal cylinder called an iron lung. It was a sealed tube that used air pressure to force your chest open and closed to make your lungs breathe. But even with the iron lung, the death rate for bulbar polio patients was over 90%. Later, in 1952, doctors in Copenhagen invented a better machine called a positive pressure ventilator. And that brought the death rate down from 90% to about 20%. One real
Mm-hmm.
boy went through exactly this. His name was Paul Alexander. He was placed in an iron lung at 6 years old and never breathed on his own again. He lived inside that machine for 72 years. He taught himself a technique called frog breathing, so he could leave it for short periods and use that freedom to earn a college degree, a law degree, and pass the bar exam. He died in March 2024 at 78 years
Mm.
old. Today, polio is nearly gone. A vaccine by Jonas Salk in 1955 dropped polio cases by 90% within a decade. And if someone does get bulbar polio now, modern ventilators and intensive care give them a much better chance than the iron lung ever did. But if the virus reaches your brainstem, the nerve damage it does still can't be fixed. Tetanus. You're pulling apart an old wooden fence in your backyard on a Saturday when a
Oh
rusty
no.
nail punches through your skin. It bleeds a little, hurts a little, but nothing serious. You rinse it off, wrap it up, and forget about it. But when that nail went in, it pushed dirt deep into the wound. And in that dirt, there were tiny seeds of a germ called Clostridium tetani. These seeds are everywhere. They sit in soil all over the planet. They can survive there for years waiting. The one thing they need to wake up is a place with no air. And when a nail punches deep into your skin, the flesh closes right back up around the hole, trapping the dirt and sealing off the oxygen. That tiny pocket in your wound is the perfect spot for these germs to come alive. And once they wake up, they start releasing a poison so powerful that just 175 nanograms of it, a speck way smaller than a grain of sand, is enough to kill a full-grown adult. About a week later, you wake up and your jaw feels stiff. Not painful, just tight. You try to open your mouth wide and it barely moves. By evening, you can't open it at all. Your jaw has locked shut. And then you notice something scary in the mirror. Your face is frozen into a wide, rigid grin that you're not making. Your lips are pulled back over your teeth, and the muscles in your cheeks are rock hard. You couldn't relax your face at all. This is tetanus. And the reason your body is locking up is because that poison has been crawling up your nerves towards your spine this whole time. It took days to get there, but once it arrived, it started destroying the nerve cells whose only job is to tell your muscles to relax. And now your muscles get the signal to squeeze. They never get the signal to stop. At first, it's your jaw. After that, the squeezing spreads down your neck, across your back, through your stomach, and into your arms and legs. Your whole body goes stiff like a wooden plank. And then comes the spasms. Any tiny thing can set them off. A loud sound, someone bumping your bed, a flash of light, even a breeze blowing across your skin. Your entire body muscles are squeezed so powerful that it can crack the bones in your spine and rip muscles right off the bone. The worst part is that the poison never touches your brain. You can think clearly the entire time. You feel every single spasm, every cracked bone, every torn muscle, and there is absolutely nothing you can do to stop any of it. Eventually, the poison starts messing with your automatic body functions. Your heart rate goes haywire, jumping between way too fast and dangerously slow. Your blood pressure rockets up and then crashes down. Adrenaline floods your body at up to 100 times the normal amount. Your heart, getting slammed by all of this nonstop, finally gives up and stops. The good news is there's a vaccine, but the bad news is that tetanus can never be completely gotten rid of. It lives in dirt everywhere on the planet. And even if you somehow survive it, your body won't build up any defense against it for next time. Because the amount of poison it takes to kill you is so small, your immune system never even notices it was there. The only thing keeping you safe is a shot you're supposed to get every 10 years. If you're being honest with yourself, you probably don't remember when you got your last one. Flesh-eating bacteria. Imagine you spent the weekend helping a friend clear brush near a creek. You scrape your leg on a rock. Nothing major.
What makes this worse is that pretty much with tetanus shots, usually every 10 years the doctor's supposed to say, hey, or pretty much like you're 10, 20, 30, your doctor's supposed to say, hey, it's time for your tetanus shot. And you get a tetanus shot, boom. I think it was last time it was around like 9. I think it was 9. No, 8, 9, somewhere around there. Didn't get it when I was 17, 18. Hopefully I get offered at 20. I should probably ask my doctors about that. But yeah. Alright.
Just a shallow cut below your knee. You rinsed it off, slapped a bandage on it, and forgot about it. But when that cut opened up, a bacteria got in, and they landed on a layer of tissue called the fascia, which is basically the wrapping that holds your muscles, nerves, and blood vessels all together. From the moment they landed there, the bacteria started eating through and spreading in that wrapping at up to 2 to 3 centimeters every hour. For the next 2 days, the wound hurts, but looks normal, so nothing worrying. But on the third day, something changes. The pain gets worse, a lot worse, and it doesn't match what you're seeing. The skin around the cut looks a little red, a little swollen, but nothing that should hurt this much. It feels like something is burning deep under your skin. You go to the hospital. They tell you it's probably just inflammation and sends you home. Then the next morning, you wake up and your entire leg has changed color all the way up to your hip. This is necrotizing fasciitis. And by now, the infection has had days of a head start. As the bacteria have been spreading, they release poisons that cause the tiny blood vessels in the area to clog up, like pipes getting blocked. Once those vessels shut down, blood can't reach the skin and muscle above them anymore. And if blood can't get there, the tissue just starts dying, and the dead zone keeps growing. Your skin goes from red to dark purple. Then blisters filled with blood start bubbling up on the surface. And sometimes it fools you, because as the tissue dies, so do the nerves inside it. The area that was screaming with pain suddenly goes quiet. You press on it and feel nothing. Your first thought is that you're getting better. What actually happened is that the nerves are dead, and it gets even worse. Sometimes the bacteria behind this are the same germ that gives kids strep throat, just a far more dangerous version. Normally, when you fight off an infection,
Shit.
your body sends out a small team of cells to deal with it. But this germ tricks your body into sending almost its entire army all at once. And that army doesn't just go after the bacteria, it goes after everything nearby. Your blood pressure tanks, your organs start shutting down one by one. So now the infection is destroying you from the outside. Your own immune system is destroying you from the inside at the same time. The only thing that can stop any of it is surgery, and it has to happen fast. Healthy tissue is rough and firm. Infected tissue falls apart like wet paper. They can push a finger between your muscles, and it just slides right through. From there, the surgeon has to cut out every single piece of dead tissue they can find. And sometimes that means taking an entire arm or leg. Studies have shown that waiting just one day too long to operate makes you 9 times more likely to die. About 1 in every 250,000 people in the United States get this infection every year. Even with treatment, about 1 in 8 don't make it. The reason the numbers are so brutal is simple. By the time anyone figures out what's actually going on under the skin, the infection has already had hours, sometimes days, of a head start.
Shit.
What are we doing here, folks? Well, if you're tired of the age verification pull requests, came across another one.
Here's the thing. Anyone with pretty much either last year's Linux installation, last year's Linux installer ISO, or pretty much last year's, or pretty much pre 2026 Windows installer, keep those. Just keep those. Don't download the new 2025 installers. So they're probably going to be injecting it with ID verification and stuff like that. So if the old school installers, keep that. Just keep it somewhere safe. Make copies on multiple thumb drives. Save on like cloud storage, stuff like that. Anywhere and everywhere. Make sure that these people these companies and the government don't get what they want, which is ID verification. And that's my opinion. I don't believe ID verification is a good idea. That's my opinion.
So, recently there had been a pull request done on the Calamares installer. Now, before moving forward, let me tell you, this is just for informational and educational purposes only. And if it's expressed, don't necessarily. Before moving forward, let me tell you, this is just for informational and educational purposes only. Any views expressed don't necessarily reflect my personal views or beliefs. Also, please do not defame, harass, intimidate, or dox any individual or organization. And the only reason I've shared names is because it's publicly available information and open source projects. No legal advice is given or implied. If anything is inaccurate, it may have changed. As always, please go and do your own research. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, what is Calamares? Well, Calamares is a installer that is used in various Linux distributions as an installer framework. And as you can see here, it ranges everywhere from Manjaro to Debian or Debian Live, Sparky, KDE Neon, Kubuntu, Kashi, Lubuntu, you name the distribution. Calamares is often used as an easy-to-use installer. But pull request 2499. This time, targeting the universal installer, Dylan Taylor opened a pull request to add an opt-in birth date field for age verification into Calamari's installer, which would basically add a widget with a calendar pop-up, and it would store the birth date in the counts service key profile on the target system. This would have to be explicitly enabled via compile time. Now, this is the same developer who, let's be honest, submitted PRs to systemd, Arch Install, XCG Desktop Portal, right? So, in this case, however, the Calamaris project owners pushed back, right? Delta said not every distro will need or want this. It has to be toggleable, not forced on anyone, and Calamari serves too many downstream consumers to make assumptions. Exactly, I agree. Count service is installed on the target system at user creation. It's not guaranteed it will be there. This PR would assume that it is, and if it would save this in a plain text file instead of requiring encryption. So just adding permissions isn't the same thing as encrypting data. One of the things was, and the biggest comments was, this probably should not be merged. And some of the reasons was jurisdictions may exempt open source software. The laws are still changing. The laws are not finalized, right? KDE and GNOME are building desktop portal solutions in a proper layer. Account service may be going away entirely as a storage mechanism. Some jurisdictions only need a birth year, not a full date of birth. A lot of these backends don't exist yet. And rightfully said, we should not modify Calamaris until there's some approach that desktops are taking towards this. So there won't be an implementation. So for now, Taylor conceded and marks this PR as draft whip. This should wait for final version of the storage later portal to go in. Now, some people have said, and there's been accusations saying that this PR is malicious by nature. I mean, one of the contributors called this PR an active sabotage, said this cannot be trusted to not contain subtle errors. Why is one person pushing this across multiple PRs and systems? Said it contradicts laws. And the author defended themselves, saying, hey, introducing these features is normal across coordinated stacks, and the outrage over a birth date field and a date picker staggering. There's literally no verification whatsoever. I mean, I would just like to say, if that's the case, why even bother with this? Someone else listed 5 countries with laws that can compel developers to insert backdoors, and that went on. Further on was the encryption problem. Problem with storing as a plain text. The person who submitted this said, well, it's root owned, not word readable. And then they were saying, hey, but browser cookies are more sensitive than a birth date. And the real solution is app sandboxing, not encrypting a field. And some jurisdictions are requiring encryption, and their response was, well, systemd user PR has already been merged. Okay. Date of birth is generally classified as non-sensitive information. Now, Delta's conclusion was requiring permissions to access it is not the same as encryption and will not satisfy this requirement. All I want to just say is, you do you, but it's not for you as a developer to say whether a birth date field is or isn't a protected field, okay? Whether I want my birth date field out there or not out there is a decision I will make, and I will do with the distribution that I use if I so choose and they're forced by the law. Not because somebody out there thinks that they should know better on an installer. I'm sorry, that I do disagree with. And a coordinated push was amongst Ubuntu, XKDG, Calamaris, which we've learned, Arch Install. Arch is still Arch is still seeking legal counsel before they do any merge. We all know, despite 945 comments and backslash, the revert PR was closed for systemd. So I guess the final question is, should Calamaris be a gatekeep? Basically, Delta said it isn't Calamari's role to gatekeep and decide if it's a good or bad thing. It's up to the distros who use to decide. Calamari's role is to ensure this option is available to distros who choose to use it. And I agree with that. There's 2 sides. There's a framework side, whether it is a tool provides a tool, not an opinion. Each distro can decide it themselves, and refusing the feature is their choice. And community, once plumbing exists, things become harder to remove. Just an option is how sometimes things get started, and will some distros feel pressure to enable it. But the crazy thing is, no one has asked for all of this. I do get why there's discussions around this online and all of that, right? I'm not making an opinion on that. But trying to add this to Calamaris installer, I'm sorry, no. Now it's just madness. You ask me, let the distro decide themselves how they're going to do it, which gives users a choice. If Calamaris says yes, will the maintainers even know that option exists? Will the distros enable it to avoid legal risk, even if users never ask for it? If it's up to a compile time, is there really a choice? If the plumbing is done and the faucet hasn't been turned on yet, who knows? But the real story is it's an important piece of age verification puzzle. Not because it's the most, but it touches the most distros. It's a universal installer. This pull request is on hold, laws aren't. And it's not about date picker. It's about whether Linux remains one platform where nobody asks who you are. Again, I'm going to end this off with don't dox anyone, don't threaten anyone, none of that stuff. It's not cool. But age verification, if the distribution chooses it, so be it. But not in a universal installer, and no one has the right to have the audacity to tell me whether a date of birth field is legally protected or not. As always, leave your comments below. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.
If you have smart surveillance cameras in or around your home, there are a lot of things going on in the background that you may not even realize. Not only are you constantly feeding data to a server that law enforcement can use as evidence against you, but many surveillance companies partner with insurance companies to streamline the process of letting them spy on you. I made an app that can log network activity and data from a smart camera just by being in the vicinity of your home. And it can tell me not only when and where activity is taking place, but when you're viewing the camera feeds. I even released a version that you can try yourself. And we'll be doing some weird side channel hacking, like spying on Ring camera microphones and sending radio signals to the speaker wire, which, ironically enough, produces ultrasonic frequencies that can jam other smart recording devices. And naturally, we'll be going over the history of in-home surveillance, from radio collars worn by domestic abuse survivors to Shark Tank, all the way to a CEO declaring war on crime and sending his employees camouflage clothing, and hiring Shaq to hang out with him for some reason.
Lol.
In 1966, a nurse by the name of Marie Van Britten Brown felt unsafe returning from work to her Queens apartment at odd hours. She had an idea: a motorized camera and two-way intercom system wired to a doorbell that featured a panic button that could call police. Her husband was an electronics technician and helped her make a prototype, and they bought a patent that was approved in 1969. While she allegedly lived modestly until 1999, over 30 home security patents reference her work without paying royalties. Women's rights have a pretty rocky history with home security. In the 1990s, ADT launched a program that gifted ADT-branded radio collars to survivors of domestic abuse. If the woman felt as if she was in immediate danger that her partner or spouse would harm her again, she could just press the ADT panic button, and that would send a radio signal up to 200 feet away to the base station that is connected to the house's phone line. Really inspiring stuff. And since abusers now frequently use security cameras like Ring to monitor their victims and subject them to coercive control, ADT now offers an app called So Secure, which is only $8.99 a month for the premium membership. It uses widgets and secret voice commands so women can attempt to discreetly notify an ADT agent that they're in danger without making it too obvious to the abuser watching their every move through the Ring cameras. Oh, and there's also a Track Me timer, which tracks a woman's location and requires them to check in before notifying ADT to call emergency responders on their behalf. You know, after learning all this, I frankly don't understand what women have to complain about. Between 2006 and 2011, self-described serial entrepreneur Jamie Siminoff was very busy with his 6 startups, including PhoneTag and Unsubscribe.com, but he cashed out and started a company called Doorbot. In December of 2012, he more covertly started another company called Christie Street that was a Kickstarter company. And as luck would have it, His crowdfunding company featured his smart doorbell on the homepage. And just a few months after that, Jamie got the opportunity to propose his vision for Doorbot to some of our world's most prestigious economists.
Join me, and the next time you hear,
See here.
it'll be.
You're dead to me.
Not long after Doorbot launched, it rebranded to Ring. Google purchased Dropcam and added home surveillance cameras to its Nest line of products. Netgear bought 𝙂𝙂𝙗 and launched 𝙂𝙗. When about 4 years after the Blink Kickstarter campaign was funded in 2014, Amazon purchased the company. Many of the original backers still haven't received their cameras. It was basically a gigantic race between a bunch of companies that have utterly no experience in the surveillance industry. Back in 2014, it was relatively perfect to have a security camera inside your home, and the few families that did were limited to things like baby monitors. These days, 1/3 of American households have voluntarily installed surveillance cameras inside their home that connect to a third-party cloud service, and nearly 2/3 of households have outdoor cameras. And the vast majority of these camera owners have a very poor understanding of who may be able to watch the footage coming from them. Stay tuned, we'll be right back after some smart camera hacking instructions.
Remember, don't hack.
We keep seeing these news stories about criminals using jammers to scramble and bypass doorbell.
Don't hack unless you're
I'm pretty
professional.
familiar with jamming myself, and while a little part of me gets excited to think that a teenager who spends their time stealing packages from their neighbor's porch is accidentally becoming enthusiastic about RF and cybersecurity, I also want to strongly discourage them from using jammers. Porch piracy confuses me because it has such an out-of-whack risk-reward ratio. Like, out of all the packages that I receive in any given month, maybe 3 of them have anything that a pawn shop would even be interested in. But okay, let's assume that you're okay with that risk-reward ratio and you get caught, you're probably going to get probation on your first offense. Now, if you use a jammer on a doorbell camera, that's a federal crime and the feds will pull up. And that's like a $100,000 fine and a year in prison on your first offense. There's kind of a good reason for it. Jammers can disrupt things like emergency services and GPS signals. Like, people could die as a result of you using a jammer. And even if you're a sociopath and you don't care about any of those things, jammers aren't cheap. They cost like a few $100 at least. What you want to do is de-auth the doorbell camera, but don't actually de-auth the doorbell camera. The standard WPA2 encryption that most routers come with has a lot of flaws, and flawed devices only exacerbate the flaws in the router. Basically, I could send a vulnerable internet-connected device a command saying that it's been kicked off of the network. Some devices these days are smart enough to only accept this command from the router it's connected to, but none of my Ring cameras seem to care where that de-auth signal had come from. You can send a de-auth signal from any laptop with a decent Wi-Fi interface. Some phones or even smartwatches can be modified to do it. Inexpensive and fun M5 stack devices can certainly do it, and even dirt-cheap ESP32 boards can send targeted deauthorization attacks. It is illegal, and genuinely an asshole thing to do to anyone without their consent, but machine gunning a Ring camera with de-auth signals does indeed stop it from sending image data to Amazon's servers. A Ring camera will always try to reconnect to a Wi-Fi network after it's de-auth. A WPA2 network will send the camera a handshake asking for the password, and in this process, you can easily download that handshake and stick a powerful GPU on the encryption locally. To demonstrate this, I set up a brand new TP-Link router with the default Wi-Fi password that came on a sticker in the package, and then I registered a Ring camera to that network and de-authed it. I was able to crack the password in Go. Done. Yeah, not great. So even if I'm not concerned with obfuscating the camera signal itself, if I wanted to maliciously break into a Wi-Fi network that had the most common type of encryption, seeing a Ring camera on that network would be a stroke of luck that would make that task a lot easier. There are some ways that you could protect yourself against this. Some work better than others. You could try to enable WPA3 encryption on your router and find out how many of your older devices will not connect to your router anymore. Or you could try a type of enterprise encryption that sends a different key to each device that connects to your Wi-Fi network. Good luck keeping track of those. I'll give you some more ideas later in this video. There seems to be a phenomenon where if you're a white dude with an unfathomable amount of wealth, you see movies like Iron Man or The Dark Knight not as comic-based action movies based on fictional universes, but an idea board for the next chapter of your life. Unfortunately, the person who put cameras in and around everyone's home also has shown symptoms of this particular type of psychosis. Within a few short years of pitching
Caller ID for your front door.
Jamie Siminoff sent emails to his employees quite literally declaring a war on crime. They stated that Ring was going to war with anyone who wants to harm a neighborhood, which is interesting because a few months ago when visiting neighborhoods severely harmed by data centers, I didn't see any Ring troops with feet on the ground. Jamie went on to directly address criminals by indirectly emailing all of his employees.
The dirtbag criminals that steal our packages and rob our houses, your time is numbered because Ring is officially declaring war on you.
He then sent his employees camouflage shirts with the Ring logo on them, I suppose because he expected this war on porch pirates to take place in Panama or something. From the leaked emails I've seen, it appears that there were actually multiple Ring wars, which Jamie would abbreviate with RW1, RW2, and so on. RW3 was a battle against ADT, I assume because they were competitors. I didn't really go to business school, so I'm not really sure how the militarization of an IP camera company is organized. I assume that, much like Flock Safety, Ring realized that there's a whole lot of money to be made by wedging themselves in between law enforcement agencies and their own communities. The loud and performative anti-crime obsession operates as a great distraction for both the potential violation of Fourth Amendment rights and the amount of money that those violations will cost taxpayers. If a company like Flock or Ring is working with your local government and you're not interested in Flock or Ring's products, then you'll be buying them anyway with your property taxes. Right around the time that RW1 was declared, the company started cozying up to law enforcement. They hosted lavish events for police with free dinner and open bar, giving every attendee a bunch of free Ring cameras that they were encouraged to use with their department or community. Also worth mentioning, many of these events featured Shaquille O'Neal, and the CEO seemed to hire Shaq to hang out with him quite a bit.
We've given away over $1 million worth of stuff. We've gone into neighborhoods, actually personally, both of us, done it together, installed them on people's houses that have had crime issues and crime-ridden areas.
It looks like Shaquille does not want to be there.
Launch of the Ring Neighbors app, which more or less combined the cameras with a social media network. But the app that people living in these neighborhoods didn't usually see or even know existed was the Police Access Portal, where law enforcement could utilize the data volunteered through the Neighbors app to cross-reference with police reports and criminal records.
Welcome to Ring Neighborhoods Portal, a community-supported crime-fighting tool for law enforcement. You can enter an address and time frame of interest and see a map of active cameras in your chosen area and time. No more going door to door to look for cameras and asking for footage. When you select a case, you see a map and timeline of available videos and captured security events related to that case. In future versions, we will also be enabling Ring's smart search functionality.
And they use an AI voice.
Activity detection and person recognition.
That may not even sound that problematic if you've never spent time on apps like Neighbors or Nextdoor, but within a couple of minutes of it, you'll get a really good understanding of why the Constitution is a thing. As the company scaled in the direction of government surveillance, customers and journalists started taking note. When Amazon acquired Ring in 2018 for $1.1 billion, the war declarations and edgy language seemed to simmer down a notch, but the company continued to comply with subpoenas and give customer data and footage to police without requiring a warrant or the customer's consent. After the pandemic and the George Floyd protests, worried that privacy concerns would harm sales, Amazon carefully took a step back from its direct relationship with police. Jamie Siminoff stepped down from his CEO position, and by January 2024, Ring stopped allowing police to request data from the Neighbors app entirely. This was seen as a big win by privacy advocates and customers alike, but Ring wasn't giving up on this strategy. They were seemingly just removing themselves from the controversy.
Remember, kids. Oh, come on, a fucking art pen. No. Hold on. Neck crack. Oh, anywho, I want to say that, remember kids, anything a company does is usually in the interest of their own bottom line and shareholders. It is never in the interest of public at all.
Regarding it, instead of directly providing law enforcement with an interface to download customer data, they would partner with companies that were in the business of aggregating and selling data to the government, like Axon and Flock Safety. Jamie Siminoff stepped back into Ring leadership, and it wouldn't be long before his employees got his controversial emails again, this time using an emotional reference to Charlie Kirk's murder to highlight how important it was to roll out another community request tool for police. And not long after that, this happened.
One post of a dog's photo in the Ring app starts outdoor cameras looking for a match. Search Party from Ring uses AI to help families find lost dogs. Available to everyone.
A lot of people weighed in after seeing that Super Bowl ad, worried about privacy.
Still, the ad is enough for some people to turn away from the company altogether.
They want nothing to do with this technology.
The plan to use people's love of their pets as a way to roll out and introduce an invasive technology backfired, to say the least. Channels like this one have been pleading with people to defend their right to privacy for a really long time, and somehow Ring accomplished this in under 30 seconds. People of all demographics and political leanings and walks of life saw this ad, looked at the Ring cameras, and said, wait, what if they tracked me this way? And they weren't paranoid for thinking this at all. In emails obtained by 404 Media, Jamie Siminoff proudly probably said that the searchlight feature is first for finding dogs, insinuating that it will expand to other subjects. And all of this is happening as Ring is rolling out its facial recognition features. This is just my opinion, but it seems to me that it is very much within Ring's interest to distance themselves from government-related privacy concerns. After all, they're selling you the cameras that could be used against you, and you're paying them a monthly fee to keep them working with these features. They need to appear as your friend, and that's probably why their partnership with VOD was terminated shortly after that controversial ad aired. But there is nothing that suggests that ending the VOD partnership ends the Community Requests program, or Ring's posture regarding working with law enforcement. I am so obsessed with Tempest attacks or radio side channel attacks, which I've demonstrated in a previous video on flock safety cameras. Modern smart home cameras have a microphone and speaker, so you can talk to the person you're creepily watching or hear their response. But these components are really, really small, which means that they're not shielded very well. In some cases, you can also access the inverted information hitting a speaker and use it as a microphone, which you may have experienced when plugging your headphones into the microphone port on your computer. Using a combination of high-end software-defined radios, I was able to find the Ring camera's microphone input in high-frequency RF leakage. I recorded the IQ files, which is pretty much the same process as recording an audio WAV file, but with like 1,000 times more information. Like there's a setting where you tell the app that you're home and then it doesn't record you, but I don't have evidence yet. I haven't demodulated the voice, but it appears to be picking up sound. See that? Then, after setting up some custom filters in GNU Radio, I set up a decimation pipeline to convert the PDM data to PCM, and was able to make out some faint audio information. I would not personally call this a vulnerability of any sort. It's more like a fun boot camp to learn about radio's relationship with computer science. What was way more interesting was testing the speaker. No, we're at 45K. And realizing, for whatever accidental reason, it plays audio well into the ultrasonic range, which means that it technically could qualify as a weak audio jamming device if someone were committed enough. I did have an idea, which may have just been procrastination at this depth, but have you ever randomly heard a radio signal come out of a guitar amp or speaker system? That's usually because the length of the input cable is behaving as an antenna, and this can easily be calculated. You have your frequency in gigahertz equals 300 antenna millimeter. I'm not even aware of a software-defined radio that can transmit anything above 10 gigahertz, so I spent a lot of time include RF signals at an eighth of the resonant frequency of the speaker wire. But for one fantastic fleeting moment at like 4 in the morning, I did make it work. And now you know that through an expensive and completely impractical process, this particular model of Ring camera can be transformed into an extremely shitty music speaker or ultrasonic transmitter. Rigging your house full of surveillance cameras does not come without consequence, and very few people know about these consequences until they find out about them the hard way. For example, when you signed your homeowner's or renter's insurance policy that you certainly didn't read, you likely agreed to a duty to cooperate clause, so if your car gets stolen out of your driveway, your insurance company can demand access to the footage, and if you don't hand it over, they can deny your claim. And when you do hand over that footage, your insurance company will scour the footage looking for comparative negligence, like an open window, or the lights not flashing to indicate that you locked your car, and they'll use that to reduce or deny your claim. Also, if you disclose to your insurance company that you have a surveillance system when you sign the policy agreement, and one of your cameras happened to run out of batteries or had a fogged up lens, recent legal trends across the US are granting them the right to deny that claim entirely. Most major insurance companies offer a safety rewards or smart home discount program, and when you sign up for these, they're likely receiving monthly or even real-time telemetry data and connectivity reports directly from your camera's vendor. For example, insurance companies can connect to Ring or Nest via API for this data, and more recently, security vendors are partnering to streamline this even more. This data is collected not only for the purpose of supplying reasons to deny claims, but to find new reasons to increase the price of your premiums. This has been so valuable to insurance companies that they've started giving away smart devices to their customers. So you may not even realize that one of your security cameras has run out of batteries or is not functioning properly, but chances are that your insurance company does. If you happen to, for example, sprain your ankle at work, your employer's insurance company may also issue a request for production that demands all surveillance video from your home to see if you're actually injured. They even run AI gait analysis on this footage. So in this example, let's say your kitchen trash can is overflowing and you decide to push through the pane and take the garbage out. That could work against your claim in some cases and build a narrative accusing you of fraud. What's even weirder is canvassing. If you have a camera pointed at your neighbor's house, you may get a visit from their insurer's private investigator ambiguously requesting footage to help with an investigation. If you say no, you may get certified mail with a preservation letter, which puts you in a position where if you don't archive the requested footage, you can be liable for a civil suit. There are some recent cases in Texas and Florida that cleared the path for prosecutors to use the act of disabling your own security cameras as evidence to, for example, turn a self-defense investigation into a premeditated murder charge. So in some states, if you were to...
Jesus Christ, so you can't even have your own... Wow. So what's next? Just have a phone start recording the moment that something happens? Or just try to predict if something will happen? And just pray to God your neighbor doesn't have a security camera that's recording you? Because my parents have a security system for their house, and pretty much the camera here. The camera's old. There's only one camera in the front. But a neighbor has security cameras, like old neighbor, from pretty much my parents' neighbors have a full-fledged security 360 security system kind of thing going on in the house.
Turn off your Ring or Nest cameras because you felt like enjoying an afternoon with some privacy and you forgot to call timeout and turn them back on before defending yourself from somebody attacking you with a baseball bat, that historical device health data will be accessed with or without your consent and used to incriminate you. In a perfect world, where the high road prevails and the bad guys are always served a cold dish of justice, it's arguably handy to have a bunch of cameras monitoring everything happening around your home. But we don't live in that perfect world. We live in a world where every single one of the companies involved will stop at nothing to make as much money as possible. If you ask nicely and wait a few days, Ring is obligated to give you the data about you that they're harvesting, storing, and potentially sharing. In my case, this includes, but is absolutely not limited to, every single time that I got a notification, every single time that I looked at the app, what device or type of Wi-Fi or cellular connection I used to look at the app. It logged every time that a Ring device had low battery or powered down. It logged every single alert, every single time motion was detected, and every single time that the AI thought that the motion was a human and the precise time and location of those events. Then all the usual stuff like my email, GPS coordinates of devices, phone number, address, and details about the subscription. But the problem is, even without video footage, when you analyze this data, it can draw a complete picture of your schedule, habits, and general lifestyle. And when you sign up for services like this, you're almost certainly consenting to the company being able to share the data where it can be combined with everything from the things that you're looking at on Amazon to the telemetry data from your car to the porn site searches Meta tracked from you. A lot of controversy surrounding Ring has been regarding the data being accessed by law enforcement through their Neighbors program and now defunct partnership with Flock Safety. And my cameras have received over 250 CMM content requests, which I'm assuming is their community features asking for this data. I've asked Ring to clarify, and they didn't have an answer for me. We've reached this critical point where a tech-savvy investigator can find enough evidence to build a case by monitoring that same information the insurance companies are buying, whether that's done legitimately or through a data breach. But what's even more alarming is the amount of privacy invasion that can be accomplished just by passively sniffing Wi-Fi and Bluetooth frequencies. Let's try it. I made a few different apps to demonstrate this. The first is monitoring. Get it? Monitoring. I'll see myself out. I put monitoring on GitHub if you want to try
God damn it.
camera and network so you can see your activity. If you have a decent router, you can capture PCAP data, which is basically the only way to see every single thing being sent over your network in any given time frame. And when I say see, you'll be seeing general things like this. Sometimes you'll see some recognizable words or addresses, but in the case of a Nest or Ring camera, it'll mostly be encrypted gobbledygook. But many of these cameras have a flaw that's really difficult to avoid. Let's say you're using a Ring camera as a baby monitor. Every time it detects movement, it'll be capturing video and sending it to the cloud, and depending on your preferences, alerting you. Even if that data is encrypted, it still has a heuristic fingerprint. This means that once that fingerprint is identified, you can see every single time that a particular camera was detecting movement. If you do this throughout a home with a bunch of cloud-connected cameras, you can build a profile of what the people inside are doing and where they're doing it. Monitoring isn't a hacking tool or an expert. It's a simplified way to visualize your own heuristic data from your own secure network. It shows you what my
Yeah.
other much more nefarious app can see. 𝙂𝙀 is so much creepier. I made a version that can run on a Raspberry Pi with an external Wi-Fi adapter and one that can run on a rooted Android phone. It can analyze this same heuristic data without needing data from the router. You don't even need to have access to the Wi-Fi network. It passively performs a side-channel attack by scanning for Ring cameras and letting you select the ones that you want to monitor. Then, every single time that movement is detected and video is transmitted to the Amazon cloud servers, the app lets you know. And if you just want to leave it on all day, it'll give you a CSV report of every single camera's activity, as well as when it suspected that the camera's owner was looking at the feed. This could tell somebody parked out in the street when you're home or at work, or when you're home alone. I will not be releasing 𝙂𝙀, and I likely won't even run it. But the reason I made the app is to demonstrate that it is absolutely possible, and therefore probably being used in some nefarious way somewhere by the government, stalkers, or companies that want your data for some profitable reason. I say that like those are three different things. There are these blind spots in research that often exist in the shadow of cherry-picking data. And what I mean by this is that it's very likely that companies like Ring and ADT and so on have funded studies into the efficacy of surveillance cameras, but didn't get the results they were hoping for, so it was never published. This may explain why, surprisingly, there hasn't been any independent qualified research published that suggests that a smart camera on your property deters crime, especially when these cameras are present in 2 out of 3 homes. There is, however, a 15-year-old meta-analysis on criminology research that highlights how cameras lack any statistically significant impact on crime at all. Now, of course, if you just type this into Google, you'll see stats pulled from the depths of CCTV Security Pro's asshole, and you'll find lots of home security companies citing the studies conducted in another vendor's imagination. So let's pretend that you're a criminal, and you're targeting a specific home for whatever reason. You'll just wear a mask when you see it. But if you're scoping a neighborhood looking for a house to rob, do you want to rob the house with no screens and stacks of tires in the driveway, or do you want to rob the house with a bunch of expensive cameras guarding the valuables inside? I did manage to find one really good study on home security, and it was about dogs deterring crime and the link between socioeconomic conditions and dog ownership. The presence of dogs significantly reduces crime in neighborhoods, and on face value that makes sense, because if someone steps on my property, my dogs loudly let everybody within a square mile know about it. But the actual crime deterrence is not necessarily for the reasons that you think. For example, I like to believe that most dog owners walk their dogs, and when you walk your dog, you're essentially patrolling your neighborhood. And in my neighborhood, I'd say that the vast majority of the people that I met because I wanted to know more about their dog or they wanted to know more about mine. That transforms strangers into neighbors. I don't know where I would even start to find and analyze data to figure out if cloud-connected home surveillance was more likely to help or harm you. But things are very rapidly trending in the wrong direction. I initially intended on building a self-hosted, encrypted alternative to cloud cameras for this video, but I don't really think that that's the right message either. Maybe you should just have a realistic discussion with your family members about the risks you've just heard about versus the odds that cameras would actually be useful to you. And by useful, I mean, if God forbid your house gets robbed and your doorbell camera records it, is that actually going to result in you getting your things back and your window repaired? Maybe instead of paying $200 a year for a cloud camera subscription, you could increase your homeowner's or renter's insurance to include replacement cost value. If you strongly believe that you need cameras to feel safe, there are plenty of models that write encrypted files directly to micro SD cards. You can just mount them up high, and should something happen where you'll need the footage, it's available just in a less convenient way. And if the government demands footage from those cameras, they'll be shit out of luck unless you give them your encryption key. It's worth mentioning that some services like Ring allow you to enable end-to-end encryption on their platform, which supposedly means that even Ring can't access your footage if they receive a legal request to do so. But that is very different than simply encrypting a video to local storage, and it introduces a lot more transactions and question marks about what is being encrypted and when it's being encrypted and decrypted in the pipeline. That also means that if your phone is compromised, then your security certificate can be used to access the data. As previously demonstrated in this video, traffic data is revealing a lot of information about you, and that's...
Or the government can just invent 𝙂𝙀 2.0, this time for Windows 10 and 11, and just use a bunch of vulnerabilities and exploits to pretty much spy on people. Like, Rare will do that. Or probably are actively doing that. Who knows? Probably they are.
not encrypted. And finally, when you enable end-to-end encryption on a Ring camera, you lose access to the smart features like person detection, notifications with previews, and browser access, which are some of the features that would make someone pay for a subscription to Ring as opposed to using a local storage solution. But if you ask me my opinion, with the way that we seem to be plunging into authoritarianism and considering the sad state of cybersecurity, I'd say that having a cloud-connected camera from a tech conglomerate makes you significantly less safe. And you know what happened last month? I spent a few hours complaining about Ring's terms of service changes on Amazon, and they agreed to refund every Ring product that I bought over the years. And now I'm sending them this box of old cameras in exchange for the original price I paid for them. I have no idea if they extended this olive branch out of the kindness of their heart, or maybe they couldn't deal with talking to me anymore, or there's some sort of legal reason, but if loss aversion is preventing you from taking these cameras down, it's worth trying to get a refund. Let's have a few more hacks for the road.
Howdy, y'all.
Yep.
This vulnerability concerned us enough to report to Ring's cybersecurity team under responsible disclosure guidelines. It has not been verified or completely researched yet, so Ben is intentionally leaving key details out until a formal report has been completed.
If you research Ring's encryption methods, the general consensus is that it's very solid, and that's an accurate consensus. It uses the standard 𝙂𝙚𝙣𝙚 symmetric encryption between the camera and Ring servers. Encryption is typically really foolproof, but as a company releases more products with new components, firmware updates, services, app updates, and protocols, and some of their staff move on, the odds for mistakes in how that encryption is implemented starts becoming more likely. So let me be very clear here before telling you about this. I worked for weeks on virtually nothing but this exploit, and it's by far the most challenging hack that I've ever done. And the reason I did it is because I not only learned a lot about encryption, but I learned a whole lot about how video and image compression and decoding work on cameras and computers, which is very much in my wheelhouse. This definitely is not something that your typical law enforcement agency would do. It's much easier to get a warrant. To give you a very quick and broad rundown of how it worked, I cloned a secure Wi-Fi network with one of these. I used a couple different libraries to pollute the secure layers and then reroute the connections to a dummy layer. Then all of the data was running to and being captured by a third router, which was then sending data back to the original router. And then I painstakingly analyzed hundreds of megabytes of utter nonsense, paying close attention to little changes that happened during intermittent times where I rerouted the traffic. And I spent a few days and a few thousand trial and error sessions building an algorithm that could rebuild the images from the leaked raw data packets. And I was able to get this and this. I was planning on not sharing the scripts or details with anyone, but after I posted a selfie from the packets, Ring reached out to my management and asked me to submit information to their bug bounty program so they could fix it and ensure that I received appropriate recognition and compensation. It's kind of refreshing to see a company take something like this so seriously in comparison to my previous experience of Flock Safety responding to vulnerabilities by sending unsolicited emails to law enforcement agencies telling them that they were under attack by lawless activists.
Fair, fair.
I've been thinking about this person a lot lately. We were best friends for like 6 years. When we were 9 until we were 15. We did everything together. We had a Discord server just for the two of us. Different channels for different things. One for music, one for random stuff, one where we'd just send each other TikToks at 1 a.m. We'd be on call for hours doing nothing. Like one of us would be doing homework and the other one would just be there. Not even talking, just on call. We made plans to live together when we grew up. Like genuinely sat there and planned it out. We were going to get a flat, split the rent, get a dog. We were 15 and completely serious about it. And then we just stopped talking. I don't even know how to explain it better than that. One day I just looked up and realised the server had been quiet for weeks. And I hadn't texted them. And they hadn't texted me. And neither of us said anything about it. And I think what gets me the most is that I genuinely cannot point to a day. There was no ending, it just kind of stopped existing at some point and I missed the whole thing happening. I think about that a lot actually. The fact that there was no ending, because when something ends with a fight, you at least get to feel it. You get to be angry, you know what you lost and when you lost it. But when a friendship just fades, you just wake up one day and realise the last time you properly talked to this person was like 4 months ago and neither of you said anything about it. And then one day you're scrolling through Instagram and you see them post something, a birthday, a holiday, something big, and you realize you had no idea. You didn't know it was their birthday. You didn't know they went anywhere. You don't know what their life looks like anymore. And this is a person who used to text you at 7 a.m. before school, who knew your parents' names, who knew exactly what was going on with you at all times, who you told things you'd never told anyone else, and now they're just someone you follow on Instagram. And that's genuinely one of the most disorienting things I've ever had to sit with. I think the first time I really felt this, I was like 14. There was this group of us that had been friends since primary school. We had a group chat that was constantly going. Like you'd wake up and there'd be 80 messages from the night before, memes, voice notes, random videos, people arguing about stupid stuff. And then secondary school happened and everyone ended up in different classes. And slowly the group chat just slowed down, like it went from 80 messages overnight to maybe 5, then 1 or 2, then just the occasional meme that nobody reacted to. And nobody said anything about it. Nobody was like, hey, we're drifting apart. It just happened. One person got into football and started hanging out with that crowd. Another one got a boyfriend and kind of disappeared into that. And I just sort of stayed there watching the chat go quiet. And I remember one day sitting in class and looking across the room at one of them, someone I'd known since I was 7 years old. And we made eye contact and did that smile. You know that smile, the polite one. The one that means I remember you but I don't know you anymore. And I just sat there thinking, when did we become people who smile across rooms at each other? And the thing is, nobody talks about how much that actually hurts. Because there's no name for it. Like, when you lose a friend to a proper falling out, people get it. They ask what...
There's a name for somber or bittersweet. Bittersweet, more common use, but I say it's more of somber.
happened, you get to be upset about it openly. But when a friendship just quietly dies, you almost feel like you're not allowed to grieve it. Because what are you going to say? We just stopped talking. No reason. It just happened. And people would be like, okay, so just reach out then. But it's not that simple, because after enough time passes, it starts to feel genuinely weird to reach out. Like, the longer you leave it, the more it feels like bringing up something that both of you agreed to let go of, even though you never actually agreed to anything. And at some point, the silence just becomes a thing, and you both just let it be the thing, and that's it. And I think what makes it so much worse now is Instagram and Snapchat and all of it. Because before all of this, if someone left your life, they actually left. You stopped seeing them, stopped hearing about them. They became a memory, but now they're still there. Posting stories, showing up in your suggested. You can see them going out with other people on a Saturday night. You can see them having the time of their life. And you're just watching it as a stranger, as one of like 300 followers. And sometimes you'll see something they post and just feel this weird thing in your chest. Like I was supposed to be there for that. A year ago, I would have been the first person they told about that. They would have been on the phone to me before they even posted it. And now you're just another person who saw it and kept scrolling. And I think what messes with me the most is not knowing if they feel any of this. Like, I genuinely wonder sometimes if the people who slowly left my life even noticed, or if for them it was just something that happened naturally, with no weight to it. Because I'll think about certain people and feel this whole thing, this weird uncomfortable mix of missing them and not even knowing if I have the right to miss them, because nothing bad happened. And then I think, maybe they haven't thought about me once. Maybe to them I was just someone they were close with for a while and then wasn't anymore. And that was fine, and I don't know which is worse. The idea that it meant nothing to them, or the idea that it meant just as much, and they've just accepted it in a way I haven't managed to yet. There was this thing that happened last year that I keep coming back to. I bumped into someone I used to be really close with, like this was someone I spent almost every day with for 2 years. And we just stood there doing that thing where you both know there's too much history to actually address, so you just don't. How are you? Yeah, good, you. Yeah, good. What are you up to now? Just the usual stuff, you know. And then one of us said it was good to see you, and we smiled, and we walked away. And I remember standing there after and just thinking, we used to send each other voice notes at midnight. We used to know each other's schedules. We used to be the person the other one called when something happened. Good or bad, yeah, we called each other first. And we just had a 30-second conversation in a shopping centre where neither of us said a single true thing, and then we walked away. And that was apparently fine, and I genuinely don't know when it became fine. I think growing up just takes people from you so slowly that you don't realise it's happening. You're just living, going to school, dealing with your own stuff, and the people around you are doing the same, and slowly everyone drifts into their own thing.
Yeah.
Years pass, and you look around and the people you genuinely thought would be in your life forever just aren't there anymore, and nobody did anything wrong. Life just moved, and people moved with it, and sometimes the direction they moved in didn't include you. And I think that's genuinely one of the saddest things about getting older. Not in a big dramatic way, just in that quiet way that hits you on a random Tuesday. When a song comes on that you used to listen to with someone specific, or you walk past somewhere you used to go with someone and you realise you haven't spoken to them in over a year. Or you find old photos on your phone and you can't remember the last time you spoke to half the people in them. And you realise that growing up is basically just a long series of goodbyes that nobody told you were goodbyes. No warning, no last conversation, no moment where you both acknowledge that something is ending. You just had a last normal day with someone, a last call, a last voice note, a last time hanging out where everything felt completely fine, and you had no idea it was the last time. You just thought it was a regular Tuesday, and I think that's the thing I can't really shake. The fact that I've lost some of the most important people I've ever had in my life, and I never got to say goodbye to any of them.
Which is sad, it is. Life goes on. Life truly goes on.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. Welcome to
Everyone watches.
I'm your host, 𝙂𝙚 𝙤𝙤. Today we're going to be going over televisions that require that you have an account with Walmart in order for all your features to work, because that is now a thing. This is an article on the Consumer Rights
Which is
Weekly,
fucked
Vizio
up.
Walmart account requirement for smart TV features. A Walmart spokesperson told Ars Technica that an account is required on select new Vizio operating system TVs for owners to complete onboarding and to use smart TV features. The requirement also applies to on-branded TVs powered by Vizio operating system. Walmart's New Fronts announcement described the account integration as a way to connect streaming engagement with retail purchases. The press release stated that the login simplifies setup while establishing a secure identity framework across devices, connecting streaming engagement directly with retail interaction. And it's obvious why these companies are doing this, because there's more
They want to collect more data.
money in selling ads and selling data than there is in actually producing good hardware nowadays. When you take a look at Vizio's finances, this is back in 2021, but they made a net profit of $25.6 million selling televisions, but $57.3 million off of all this data harvesting advertising bullshit. Vizio makes literally double off of advertising and fucking with your data than they do off of actually selling televisions. And this is a trend that's likely going to continue. It's not just Vizio doing it on the low end. I also spent money on a high-end LG television. So this is a LG G3 OLED. I think this is one of their flagships. It was about $3,700 when I bought it, $3,700. And the do not sell my personal information option was unchecked by default on a TV that cost over $3,000. And that is not okay. Listen to this sentence. Beyond innovation, the results from Walmart and Vizio are already clear for customers. 65% of surveyed Walmart customers report that CTV ads help them discover new products, underscoring the power of placing premium content in front of high-intent shoppers. And I want to know how much you stretch the truth and how you phrase this fucking question to make it sound like having to log into a Walmart account and register a Walmart account in order to use features in the TV that I already bought and paid for, only so that I could see targeted fucking ads, is something that I would see as a good thing. Do not piss in my face, but at the very least, if you're going to piss in my face, don't tell me that it's holy water. One of the problems here is even if you just want to watch a normal program nowadays, you need to use some of these proprietary applications in order for it to work. So I have a Linux PC that is hooked up to my 4K television, and I was so dumb, I was so silly that I actually decided instead of pirating, I'm going to pay for my content. I'm going to do the right thing. I own a house. I have a lake view. I have I'm almost 40. I don't need to pirate shit anymore like I did when I was 13 years old. And what I noticed is that in spite of paying Netflix extra money for the 4K plan, they were giving me a stream that was like less than 2 megabit per second and 720p because I needed to use their operating system and their browser and HTTP and everything else. So a lot of people, if they want to actually get the full resolution of the content that they bought and paid for, they're going to need to be able to get access to the Netflix app on their television. So by telling people that you need to have a Walmart account in order to get access to the Netflix account on your television, you're now just adding that extra piece of pain point, that extra point of we're going to be able to suck up more of your data and give it to another company. We're going to be able to suck up more of your data and use it to advertise shit for this other company that sells stuff as well. We're going to,
which is all kinds of fucked up, really.
Because God forgive me, this is the shit that we're going to get to at some point. But if you need if they're merging age verification into systemd and Linux, if age verification is required to have an account in all these different places, at what point, if you need to have an account to use the television, at what point is my television going to ask for age verification? And if my television asks for age verification, at what point is my television going to ask for a copy of my fucking ID? I don't want to hear anybody say this is a slippery slope fallacy. I'm tired of it. I have over 1,000 articles on consumerrights.wiki, like 3,000 videos on this channel. It's not a fallacy as you're sliding down it, staring at the wood chipper that you're about to land in. You often need to use the smart TV apps to get the basic experience that you used to be able to get normally. Getting Netflix 4K to work requires not only knowledge of what Netflix tells you you need, but also knowledge of what they don't tell you you need, which we list in the Consumer Rights Wiki article on the Netflix 4K requirements that are not actually disclosed to the customers at the point of advertising you the service. If you do not have all these things over here, then you are not going to be able to play back 4K content on Netflix, and that is, yeah, this is why a lot of people just wind up saying fuck it and using the proprietary app. Actually get access to what it is they already bought and paid. From Sharon Harden's article, furthering Vizio Television's transformation into a Walmart ad vehicle, Walmart announced this week that Vizio operating system will show ads for beauty brand L'Oreal that connect Walmart's and other companies' product pages. Lovely. Sharon Harding does a lot of good reporting on issues at Ars Technica, so thank you very much for keeping up with this. Thank you for contributing to the Consumer Rights Wiki. And the best part about the Consumer Rights Wiki is that if you have the Consumer Rights Wiki browser extension installed and you go to Vizio.com, you'll actually see everything right here. Fined by the FTC for collecting and
Consumers Rights Wiki extension. All right, I'm getting that. Oh, real quick. All right, there we go.
Selling user data. So the moment that you go to buy something from one of these companies and you want to know upfront if they've taken part in these practices, you have all the information right in front of you to be able to make an informed decision by using the Consumer Rights Wiki browser extension, which is created and helped out by all of you. This article sits as a stub. It could use some work. It could use some help.
Hey, Dreambird, how are you? Welcome. I'm currently working on shading for. I'm currently working on shading for my art practice here, art practice project here.
From the community in order to make the site as good as humanly possible. And lastly, for anybody who is open to helping with this, I have been racking my head against the wall with Jake and Keith to try and figure out how to make this rank on Google. And I am just
welcome.
Able to
How are you?
Google things. You can literally Google Echelon Consumer Rights Wiki, and you will not find the article about Echelon on Consumer Rights Wiki. We finally got the homepage to rank, but getting individual articles to rank is damn near impossible. This is the funny thing, is that Gemini is actually talking about Future Home based on information that you could find in the wiki, but we can't get the fucking Future Home article to rank on the wiki. And I'm noticing that all of the articles that were made prior to us switching from rossmangroup.com to Consumer Rights Wiki actually show up on Google, but these don't. So if you take a look, if I search for something like Netflix Consumer Rights.wiki, it shows up, but it shows up as wiki.rossmangroup.com down here instead of Consumer Rights.wiki. So if any of you have any advice on how to do this, if you work at Google, if you have a fucking clue on what we're doing wrong, like, I could use some help from all of you. There's a link to a chat down below, zulip.consumerrights.wiki. If you are open to giving us advice, feel free to ping Jake and Keith and I and bother the shit out of us and tell us what we're doing wrong. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. See you in the next video.
For 4 decades, access to your money, your secrets, and your identity has relied on a string of memorized text. But the typed password is fundamentally broken, and the biggest tech companies on Earth are actively engineering its extinction. Apple, Google, and Microsoft aren't just upgrading your security, they are physically absorbing your identity. Welcome to the era of the passkey, the ultimate biometric trap. In 1961, Fernando Corbato introduced the world's first computer password at MIT, hoping to keep private files safe on the compatible time-sharing system. Each user typed a secret to unlock their digital space. It worked for a handful of scientists, but Corbato's idea was never built for billions. As computers left the lab and entered homes, passwords spread everywhere, in email, banking, and shopping. By the early 2000s, millions of people managed dozens of logins, recycling the same secrets across every site. The system strained under its own weight, and attackers quickly took notice. In 2012, LinkedIn lost control of 117 million accounts. Hackers exploited weak, unsalted 𝙭𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙀 hashes, and within days most passwords were cracked and used to break into other sites. The breaches kept coming. Yahoo's 2013 breach, revealed years later, exposed 3 billion accounts, almost half the world's population. Equifax, trusted with the financial data of 147 million Americans, left sensitive information vulnerable through a single unpatched server. Each time, passwords were stolen, reused, and turned into tools for fraud on a massive scale. By 2024, more than 12 billion account records had been breached worldwide. Credential stuffing attacks reached nearly 200 billion per year, draining billions in fraud and support costs. Studies showed over half of people reused passwords, and a quarter relied on just a few variations. Human memory, overwhelmed by the sheer number of secrets, defaulted to convenience, password, Manu3, birthdays, pet names, turning barriers into open doors. Security experts responded with stricter rules, longer passwords, frequent resets, and knowledge-based questions. But every new rule made things worse. People wrote passwords on sticky notes or stored them in unsecured files. Forced resets led to predictable patterns. Attackers adapted faster than defenses could change. In 2017, the National Institute of Standards and Technology rewrote its guidance, admitting that complexity rules and forced changes did not help. The real problem was human memory itself. As long as secrets lived in our heads, they could be phished, guessed, or stolen. The only solution was to take the secret out of human hands entirely. In 2013, a rare alliance took shape behind closed doors.
Which I understand in some aspect, but like, you gotta admit, like, at some point, you gotta at the very least know how to encrypt your own shit. Use your own encryption method, pretty much, and improve on the existing encryption methods as well.
The FIDO Alliance, short for Fast Identity Online, brought together sworn rivals from Silicon Valley and beyond. Apple, Google, Microsoft, and dozens of global players set aside competitive instincts to solve a problem that none could escape alone. Passwords had become unmanageable, unfixable, and dangerous at planetary scale. The cost of inaction was measured in billions, in fraud, support calls, and shattered trust. No single company could carry the burden or dictate a solution. What emerged was not a product, but a truce, a shared standard for identity that would bind the entire industry to the same cryptographic foundation. The FIDO Alliance worked quietly for years, recruiting banks, chip makers, and cloud giants. By 2019, the technical core had crystallized WebAuthn, a W3C web standard, and CTAB, a protocol connecting browsers to hardware authenticators. These blueprints defined how devices would generate, store, and use cryptographic keys without ever exposing a secret to the network. The private key would live inside a secure enclave or trusted platform module, sealed away from even the operating system. The public key would be registered with each service, transforming identity from something a user knows to something a device proves. The politics of this pact were as complex as the math. Each vendor pledged to support the standard on every major platform, promising that a passkey created on an iPhone could, in theory, unlock a Windows PC or an Android tablet. Yet the reality was more subtle. While the cryptography was open, the keychains remained tightly bound to their respective ecosystems. In May 2022, Apple, Google,
This channel is using AI voice.
the origin, forms an assertion. Alliance worked quietly for years, recruiting banks, chip makers, and Microsoft issued a joint statement unique asymmetric key pair, one public and one private. The public key is sent to the website or app, stored on their server, and indexed by the domain's exact identity, known as the RPID. The private
some
key
water.
never leaves the device. It is sealed inside a hardware enclave, burned into silicon, and remains invisible to the operating system, the browser, and even the user. During login, the server issues a one-time challenge, a string of random bytes that cannot be guessed or replayed. The device's authenticator, acting as a silent cryptographic agent, signs this challenge with the private key. The signature, together with metadata about the device and the origin, forms an assertion. The server, holding only the public key, verifies the signature and checks that the RPID matches the domain. If a phishing site tries to intercept the process, the authenticator refuses to sign because origin binding enforces that only the exact domain.
That didn't work on me. Haha.
There is no password to steal, no secret to intercept, no credential to reuse. Every step is mathematically locked. The private key is non-exportable. The signature is unique to each login attempt, tied to the challenge and the domain. Even if a hacker controls the network or tricks a user with a fake site, the cryptographic protocol blocks the attack. The assertion cannot be replayed. Each one is valid only for a single session and only for the correct domain. This is the heart of Fido's promise, the end of phishable secrets. The server never stores anything but the public key. The user never types a password, never reveals a secret, never faces a phishing lure. The device proves identity with a cryptographic fact, not a human memory. The cost of compromise now requires physical access to the user's hardware, not a guess or a trick. Identity is no longer something you know, it is something you possess, and only your device can unlock it. The brilliance of this design is not just in the math, but in the way it rewrites the rules of trust on the internet. A passkey's strength starts in silicon, not software. The private key, the core of digital identity, never leaves its hardware vault. Apple's Secure Enclave, Google's Titan M, and Microsoft's trusted platform modules are more than chips. They are physical anchors of trust, engineered to resist tampering and extraction. When a passkey is created, the secure module generates a unique asymmetric key pair. The public key is sent to the service, while the private key remains locked inside the chip, marked as non-exportable by firmware. Not even the operating system can access it. If an attacker tries to extract the key, the chip wipes itself. Unlike passwords, which can be stolen or phished, a passkey's secret is physically unreachable. This isolation is the new root of digital identity. Each hardware module carries an attestation certificate, cryptographic proof signed by the manufacturer that the key was created and stored in genuine hardware. When a device registers a passkey, it presents this certificate chain to the server, proving the key's origin. Apple's Secure Enclave uses attestation signed by Apple's root certificate authority. Google's Titan M and Microsoft's Trusted Platform modules do the same, each with their own cryptographic lineage. The server checks these certificates against the FIDO metadata service, ensuring only trusted hardware can create valid credentials. Trust is now anchored in physical reality. The device is the gatekeeper, identity bound to a piece of silicon. Biometric sensors, like fingerprint readers, Face ID, and Windows. Hello, trigger the process, but never touch the private key. The hardware signs challenges only after local user verification. Lose the device, lose the key. There is no backup or master password. The guarantee of non-exportability is absolute. Your digital self is fused to the hardware, and only the chip decides when to unlock it. Here, cryptography and hardware merge. The math is unbreakable, but it's the silicon that enforces the rules. Every login and signature depends on the integrity of these silent chips.
Yeah, that's true. However, there's one scary truth that I don't think anyone's asking. If at least one line, like one series of these chips, or even just like, not just one chip, if a whole series of chips ends up having a hardware vulnerability or an exploit, that a hardware level exploit, how would anyone like patch it? Like, you have to pretty much like have a recall for everyone to send like their like computer, the security keys and then they get new patch ones. So like, there's always going to be a catch. No matter how secure something is, there's always going to be a catch. It may not present itself right now, but it may present itself like what? A few months, few days, months, years down the line, decades down the line, maybe?
The future of authentication is not just mathematical. It is physical, tangible, and inseparable from the device itself. A single gesture now unlocks the digital world. Touch a finger to a sensor, glance at a camera, and the device springs to life, with no passwords to remember, no secrets to type. This is the new ritual of authentication, and it is engineered to feel effortless. But beneath the surface, every swipe and scan is a lesson in habit formation, conditioning users to trust the machine as the final arbiter of identity. Biometric verification is more than convenience. It is a psychological anchor, binding daily life to a silicon vault. Each time a face or a fingerprint is used to approve a login, the device performs a silent cryptographic handshake, signing a challenge with a private key that never leaves its hardware enclave. The user never sees the key, never manages it, never even thinks about it. Identity becomes a reflex. One touch, one glance, and access is granted. The friction that once reminded people of risk is gone. There is no prompt to create or recall a secret, no pause to consider exposure. The act of logging in collapses into a seamless gesture, repeated dozens of times a day, reinforcing the muscle memory that the device is the gateway to everything. This shift is not accidental. Apple's Face ID and Touch ID, Google's fingerprint unlock, Microsoft's Windows Hello are designed to make cryptography invisible, wrapping the complexity of public key math in the simplicity of a biometric check. The device asks, "Are you you?" and the answer is delivered instantly, with no room for doubt or hesitation. Over time, the user's sense of security fuses with the hardware itself. The habit is sticky, and the lock-in is absolute. When identity is bound to a gesture and a chip, switching platforms or breaking free is no longer a matter of remembering a password. It means retraining the mind, and sometimes starting over from scratch. Switching devices once meant remembering a password. Now, it means negotiating with an entire ecosystem. Apple's iCloud keychain, Google Password Manager, and Microsoft's Authenticator offer seamless passkey sync, but only inside their own walls. An
Yeah.
iPhone and a MacBook trade passkeys invisibly through end-to-end encrypted iCloud sync, unlocking apps and accounts with a single tap. Google's Password Manager does the same across Android phones and Chromebooks, while Microsoft binds passkeys to Windows and Azure accounts. Within each silo, the experience feels effortless until the moment you try to cross the line. Transferring a passkey from Apple to Windows or from Android to an iPad turns into a technical obstacle course. Instead of automatic sync, users face QR codes and Bluetooth handshakes. To sign into a Google account on a new PC using an iPhone passkey, you scan a QR code, approve the connection, and wait for a cryptographic handshake over Bluetooth. The process is technically open, but deliberately awkward. Each extra step is a reminder. These credentials are discoverable, but not truly portable. The cryptography is standardized, but the user experience is shaped by corporate boundaries. The friction is not accidental. Apple, Google, and Microsoft have optimized passkey sync to keep users inside their ecosystems, discouraging device switching through subtle inconvenience. Passkeys created on an iPhone live in iCloud, and on Android, they stay with Google. Moving them out means friction by design. Even with FIDO's promise of interoperability, the reality is a patchwork. Each vendor's sync service is a walled garden, and the bridges between them are narrow and slow. For the multi-device user, the promise of universal access collides with
It's a good thing I'm stubborn in the right ways.
the reality of vendor lock-in, where convenience ends at the ecosystem's edge and true portability remains just out of reach. A single forgotten password once meant a call to support or a reset link in your inbox. Now, losing access to your digital identity can mean losing everything. The moment a passkey is created, it is anchored to a device and, more importantly, to a cloud account, Apple ID, Google account, or Microsoft account. This is the new master key, the only way in or out of the walled garden. If the account is suspended, compromised, or flagged by an algorithm, the consequences are immediate and sweeping. In 2024, Apple suspended over 1.7 million accounts for suspected violations. For many, this meant instant lockout from iCloud Keychain, with passkeys for banking, email, and even mortgages sealed inside untouchable hardware.
I don't understand using an iCloud account or like Google, like really stuff like that for. Okay, Google's the bare minimum for emails to use. If you want to use like more like convoluted email kind of thing, because for me, I use multiple emails for I have one email dedicated for this subject, one email dedicated for this genre, like pretty much I have multiple emails for pretty much everything. On top of that, if something to do with security things with like security stuff like that, so pretty much what I do, and this is a suggestion, you don't have to do it, this is a suggestion, at a email relay daisy chain. So pick a very niche relay service that nobody knows really. That's public, but nobody really knows about it. That is your first layer. That is first layer of defense. Second layer is something that's known for security wise, such as like subtle like security wise kind of thing, like Proton, stuff like that. So you have your one relay layer, then you have a second relay layer, then you have like Proton also has its own relay layer, so I also use that. So you use the third relay layer. So 3 relay layers, and then the email.
Was not a simple.
Proton is just one of the email services I use. There's multiple. I use multiple email services with multiple varying relay chains.
Process. Apple's official policy requires a trusted device or a recovery key, plus government ID, sometimes even a video call. 40% of appeals failed, leaving users with no path back. Their digital lives, photos, files, and every passkey became inaccessible, collateral damage of a security system with no backdoor. Google's approach is no softer. In a single year, 1.5 million accounts were terminated for policy violations, each one severing access to synced passkeys and credentials. Appeals can take days, and success is far from guaranteed. A single AI-flagged mistake can cascade, locking out not just email, but every service tied to the account. Microsoft's recovery is similarly unforgiving. Without a trusted device or admin intervention, a locked account means passkeys are gone for good. The promise of passkeys is airtight security, but the price...
This is why online password managers are... Oh, they're okay if you're not tech savvy, they're okay to use. But if you're on tech savvy, use like a password manager that's on device, that nobody will have access to. Not only like password manager that's on device, but also like that device is disconnected from the internet at all.
This is absolute dependence. The device and the cloud account become a single point of failure. Lose one, and the digital doors slam shut. There is no secret to remember, no fallback password to save you. Identity is no longer something you know. It is something you can lose, all at once, with no warning and no appeal. Apple, Google, and Microsoft now control the keys to digital identity. What started as a solution to password overload has shifted into a system of market control, enforced not by law, but by cryptography and hardware. Each passkey, each fingerprint scan, each frictionless login is a transaction with the landlord. The device is the lock. The cloud account is the lease. For the tech giants, the math is simple. Password resets and fraud once cost billions. Microsoft alone faced $500 million in password support, with resets making up half of all help desk calls. Phishing accounted for 36% of breaches, each one costing millions in lost trust and chargebacks. Passkeys promise to cut these costs dramatically, with the FIDO Alliance reporting a 40 to 60% drop in global fraud and a 90% reduction in support tickets. But these savings come at a price. The system is built for retention. Passkeys sync across devices, but only if you stay inside the vendor's ecosystem. Apple's iCloud Keychain, Google Password Manager, and Microsoft Authenticator offer seamless access. Until you try to leave, moving credentials between platforms is intentionally difficult. QR codes, Bluetooth handshakes, and technical barriers make switching feel like breaking a lease. The cryptography is open, but the user experience is fenced in. Security becomes a strategy for keeping users locked in. Regulators are responding. The EU's 𝙂𝙬𝙖𝙀 2.0 now mandates open standards and credential portability, threatening fines up to 6% of global revenue for blocking migration. The UK and China are drafting similar rules. In the US, NIST and the FTC echo these calls, but the friction persists. The question now is not if you can remember your password, but if you can ever leave the landlord's system. Today, the master key to your digital life no longer lives in your mind. It's fused to a chip you don't control. As Apple, Google, and Microsoft anchor identity to proprietary silicon, the walls of their ecosystems grow taller and stronger. Passkeys promise an end to human error, but at a price. Your freedom to leave is now a question of corporate permission. Which gatekeeper holds your future? Let me know what you think below.
Actually, don't let them know. Okay, let me do this quick. All right. Save. All right, there we go. So, pretty much. I myself, I'm happy with the progress we have so far for this. And honestly, maybe I could do a little bit of shading work. If I feel like it if I feel like it when I'm off stream, I could just work on the shading a little bit more, make the from afar. The shadows are subtle, but don't really contrast. The shadows are subtle, yes, but they don't get in the way of the overall picture. If there's any like advice you can give me, feel free to do so. I'll be more than happy to listen in and take their advice into consideration. But with that being said, pretty much I'm gonna be pretty much ending off today's stream here. The next time we're gonna be doing our stream probably sometime next week, maybe on a Tuesday. I'm not sure. But yeah, pretty much I'm happy with how it's been so far. And that being said, probably just gonna be relaxing a bit. Actually, hold on real quick. Pop back. Didn't realize. There we go. Let me focus on this a little bit. I want to make sure I don't really miss a spot with shading and all that. There we go. That looks a lot better. But yeah. But yeah, pretty much now I'm happy where we're at. I'm maybe gonna make some dinner later a bit, I'm not sure. But with that being said, my name is 𝙂𝙚𝙣𝙚, I'm a variety streamer. I stream lots of video games, chats to test me, as well as I draw art. And hopefully I'll be doing 3 tomorrow for everyone here. That being said, I gotta get going with Blitzies. Bye bye, matinee.